What's up, my friends? I want to drop a framework, MVP versus OVP. And right now, those are just letters, but they're immensely powerful. And I want to tell you why. I'm going to go live here and explain this because it's going to be really, really powerful. But I was just on a call and it reminded me of the importance of this MVP versus OVP. So MVP is minimum viable product. A lot of people in the productivity, efficiency space use this. And oh, I need a description to go live. MVP versus OVP. And then OVP is the overwhelmed viable product, which I just coined that and I love it. Let me get into why. But okay, I did the live. So a lot of us, especially during the holidays, welcome to my live stream, by the way. I want to come on here with a framework, and I just got off of a coaching session, and it occurred to me that there's what's called an MVP and an OVP. So this feels really important for me to share right now. MVP is minimum viable product. A lot of people in the efficiency productivity spaces use MVP to look at the minimum to get by. And I realized this morning that there's actually an OVP, which is overwhelmed viable product. And I coined that because if the minimum is here, then the overwhelm is here. And we're telling ourselves a story about, you know, I'm not someone who comes in at a bare minimum, or whatever. It's the holidays and I want to make sure everyone's happy. So I'm going to overwhelm myself and I'm really going to take that scale to the maximum. And now I'm coming in at an OVP, an overwhelmed viable product. I just realized that this is actually a scale that a lot of us are operating on and we have no awareness around it. We don't even know that sometimes it's about hitting the minimums and coming in and being someone who gets their responsibilities done. And then sometimes we're really trying to take names and trying to OVP, overwhelm viable product, everything in life. And then we wonder why we hit burnout, why we're so anxious and angry and unfulfilled. And it might be because you're hitting the gas and you're going above and beyond in every area. And what then happens is the other things that you are responsible for and you carry in life, relationships, jobs, even, small creative things that you want to invest in, all of those fall by the wayside because you're OVPing this one area and telling yourself a story that I need to do this or I have to do this. And I think that the awareness that the scale even exists can be freeing in the first place. But an example to put some real world language to it would be if you wanted to set a goal to move your body, to some people call it workout. I'm really trying to call it move your body because workout has this sort of connotation of what that even means. So your goal is to move your body. And you could set the MVP at 6 minutes. And you could say, if I've moved my body for 6 minutes, then I met the goal and I supported my body. I invested in my body for that long today. At the other end of the spectrum, the OVP would be, let's say, and you, by the way, you define this. So your OVP might be 45 minutes. And what that means is if I've gone beyond 45 minutes, this moving my body investment has now started to decline in terms of the good that it's bringing me and every other area of my life. So it essentially took up too much space. And I think it's important to not only define that minimum, the MVP, but define the OVP so that you can recognize and put yourself back into the position of power of when is it that I'm actually done with this task and I've done the most that I want to do in this area, and then I can free myself to move on to something else. If let's say you're in the middle of moving your body at minute 45 and you're telling yourself something like, yeah, I'm really getting it. I'm doing so awesome. I'm so strong. I'm so, my body's flowing and moving with ease, whatever that is. But then you push into, and it's a good feeling. My point is that is a good thing. But then you push into minute 46 and minute 47, and it becomes an hour, and it becomes an hour and 15 by the time you've showered and like you're just beyond, you're outside of the window here. And so it's turned a good thing into something that takes away from other areas. And I really don't know that we have good language around what the parameters are for defining, well, this is my goal. And we celebrate that MVP so much, but there's really no awareness of the overwhelmed viable product, the OVP, which is the top set limit. So I wanted to offer this because I've been doing creativity lives and spending a lot of time and thought energy around creativity, making something, creating something that doesn't exist, or just having fun with my mind. And it occurred to me that doing a creative endeavor could also fall into the same framework, the same spectrum. And if I am doing something creatively, I could say, well, I'm just going to take this whole day and be creative. But then there is sort of that set limit at the top end where I'm no longer being fully responsible to other areas if I'm allowing this one thing to take over. So I think a part of that is what fueled this realization. And I was in the Air Force, so I love a good acronym or two. Yeah, shout out to anybody who has either been in the military or specifically at Air Force, because we'll come up with an acronym for anything and everything. But the whole point is to be intentional with where the energy, where the time investment actually goes. And then at the end of the day, to be able to look back and say, I'm glad that I invested, X amount of time and energy because it was within that scale. And maybe it was my MVP. Maybe I just did the minimum and practicing celebrating that too. But as we honor our time and our energy in this way more often, then I think we'll find that we can just pour more into every area and every aspect of what makes us us. And that's what's really special is I stop proving, I stop needing to be good at something or outperform and lose my mind over some, competitive um, game, which don't get me wrong, competition can be really fun and really important in certain areas. But when it takes away from your own self-worth and your own inner knowing that you have value and you bring something really beautiful and special into the world, into every area, that's when it went too far. And so I'm not talking about over hyper performing in order to prove something to someone or to outwork or outsmart or, like just proving energy. I'm in a season of my life where I've so let that go, and I'm also gaining awareness around areas where it's still kind of sticky, it's still kind of attached, and I get to learn to let that go further and fully just release that. And then I'm free to choose the investment that I want to make. So after listening to this, here is your reframe. You might ask yourself, what is my MVP today? And how is that an investment that honors X area? If this is the area of working out, moving your body, or maybe it's in a work area, maybe it's in a financial area, whatever area, how, what is my MVP? And how is it that when I stay right here and I just groove right here at this intentional level, how is that pouring into every area of my life? So, it's a bit tricky because it can get easy. We can hit that low level, that MVP, and we can go, oh, that's it? Okay, well, I want to do more. And obviously you can do one of two things at that moment. You can decide to do more, or you can say, you know what? I'm chill. That was so easy, that was so fun. I'm so glad and grateful that I got to have this moment and have this time, and then move on to something else. So I hope that reframe helps you just defining what the MVP, and then if it supports you, defining the OVP, my overwhelmed viable product. In other words, how will I know that I took this too far? Yeah, that feels really good. And I might invite you just to maybe write one area of your life that you feel like this framework could support you in. And if you want to let me know what that area is, I'd love to be an accountability partner, supporter, and just cheer you on. You can always shoot me an email at ashley@herointhemirror.com. All right, this is me checking out for today. And I just, I'm in your corner, and I know that the areas that we invest in don't have to overwhelm or take over or detract from the goodness and the fullness and the richness of life. I never really went to a class that said, hey, here's how to manage it all. Here's how to, you know, here's a life management system, Ash. Lesson one, lesson two, and so I hope that supports you. Until next time, be the hero in the mirror. All right, bye.